I'm trying to bring as many of your inquiries in as I can fit on that split that I'm going to do off of the Cretaceous. So for today's opener, we talked about this when we did the last section of notes that we just did the 6 weeks test for. Says what? Oh, that's frozen. What were the conditions like in the ocean that caused 96% of all life to die? What is it that happened that made it so much more traumatic for marine life and still bad for land? 76% of all life still died on land. But what is it that happened in the ocean that killed so many things off? That's okay. So yeah, I just heard multiple things. So it was the acid rain was caused by the Siberian tracks, the flood basalt volcanic eruption that lasted approximately 2 million years, but for 1 million solid years it was at its height. Put sulfur dioxide in the air, which causes acid rain. All rivers go to the ocean, dumps all those toxins in there, completely destroys the oxygen level. It's called anoxia, A-N-O-X-I-A, and so oxygen level goes down. And when the oxygen level goes down, it allows heavy metals to rise in the water, things like mercury and lead that will first make you go insane and then kill you. I don't know if marine animals can go insane or not, but at least human beings, that's what happens when you decide to ingest mercury in some way, shape, or form. It also was warmer. Marine life is extremely sensitive to temperature. So lots and lots and lots of stuff, but it was more the toxicity of the ocean that they couldn't handle it, especially the things that couldn't move, the things that were sessile, things that could not swim away. We're about to find out if I have any googles on this. What? Do what now? You did submit it? Okay, thank you. Awesome. But so this one's beefy. There are a lot of pictures in this though. It took a very long time to recover. Okay, not everything died in the ocean. We'll talk about specific organisms that made their way through. I can't talk about every single thing that happened or these notes, just the recovery period in the very, very, very early Triassic routine is probably 2 weeks. We ended everything off with the last unit with the Permian extinction, which was called the Great Dying. It almost completely destroyed life on this planet. Like I said, it was much worse off in the ocean than it was on land. You still had 70% of terrestrial animal life go away. Plants weren't as bad, especially vascular plants were not as badly affected because their water was filtered through the earth. There are 3 parts of the Mesozoic, which is known as the age of the dinosaurs. The Triassic, the Permian extinction to the beginning of the actual recovery, like when things started flourishing again, took over 5 million years. There's a long period of time where things were trying to fill the void of the absence of whatever organisms had originally occupied those niches. After that was the Jurassic. The dinosaurs started developing in the middle Triassic about 220 to 230 million years ago, give or take. Before that were what we call the archosaurs, the prototype, if you will, essentially for the alligator and the crocodile. The Jurassic was after that. This is the ones that you think of. Not all dinosaurs lived like through the entire thing. Some of them did span from one period to another. Some of them were only in the Cretaceous at the very end, and they got to witness the asteroid streaking through the sky, and their flesh was literally stripped of its skin as they were baked alive. It was not pleasant. The dinosaurs had nowhere to go. They couldn't go underground. They were too large, and they literally cooked to death. And at the end of the Cretaceous, this is when that fraction of that piece of slammed into the planet off the Yucatan Peninsula. that'll be the last section that we do. There actually were 3 extinctions in the Mesozoic. One at the end of the Triassic, one at the end of the Jurassic, and then the one at the end of the Cretaceous. The Triassic, now I could have gone into like super depth with this, but no. In Germany, there are 3 distinct layers in the bedrock, and they have different colors. And I'm not going to make you learn those, but they were 3. Okay, so the Trias was originally what this was called. It's a German thing. Eventually, we adapted that into the Triassic, but it is named for the fact that there are 3 distinct bedrock layers. One is red, one is white. I can't remember what the other one is. No. I think it's brown, but I know one is red and I know one is white. Well, let me show you. The first thing was the time periods. The Triassic was the first. I told them it took about 5-ish million years to really start life going again, but the Triassic was first, then the Jurassic, and then the Cretaceous. These are the 3 zones, the 3 time periods within the Mesozoic. Cretaceous is the most recent. This, at the end of this one, is when the asteroid slammed into the planet and wiped out most of the dinosaurs. And I saw a little bit of a fluctuation on where the cutoffs were. Like I said, I don't have a book to go by with any of this. I'm having to constantly fact check from one source to another. But this was the most repeated time frame that I came across. It would be nice if I could get an actual book for this class. Not that you guys would get a textbook, but like a, anyways. Where is your ID?
She started telling me I don't know here.
All right. The Triassic was the recovery period. The dinosaurs of the Triassic, like I said, they really didn't start until about the middle of the Triassic, and they were little. They didn't start off huge. They were very small, actually. The largest of them was, and we'll do that next week, maybe 8 meters long. So not 8 meters, 8 feet long. Not huge by what you would think of as the larger dinosaur standards, but for the little guys, it was one of the largest ones. Pangea was completely put together at this point. We had the Appalachians that were up. We had large inland seas in certain areas. And we had a really big volcanic section in Siberia at this time. This is, now, like I said, I could have gone so far in depth with this, but I'm not. Even the Triassic has a older, a middle, and a newer section. Okay, now the oldest section was called the Induan. You do not need to know this for the test, but this is what Pangea looked like at the very earliest stages of the Triassic period. You can see they can't see me pointing. You can see these are the Appalachian Mountains. The Andes, I believe, is what they are down the coast of South America, and we have Antarctica positioned completely over the South Pole. There are no glaciers at this point. None.
So how do scientists know that?
Because we know, like with plate tectonics and how fast they're spreading, you basically just put it in reverse and you pull everything back together. It's seriously like hitting rewind on a DVD, or well, you guys probably never even seen a VHS tape, but it's literally that's literally what they do. They're looking at how quickly the ridge is splitting, how fast the plates are moving, and they just throw it in reverse.
I'm sorry, my favorite movie on VHS.
What?
Never even saw it.
Oh, that's a great movie. I cried so bad when that horse sunk in the swamp. I did. I was like, I'm older than y'all. I was maybe 8 when that came out. Maybe.
So, how is Pangea still a thing?
Well, it's a good question. We have so much proof that it's a really good question. I don't know. Because it's a theory of plate tectonics, even though we know that it happens. Like we finally have the tools to prove that it happens. It's still considered the theory of plate tectonics. I don't know. I hate telling you I don't know. But I don't know why it's still considered a theory when we have so much evidence.
I used to watch Shirley Temple with my sister.
Wow, now that's old. That's like my parents' time. All right, so the Triassic was extremely hot. There were no glaciers at the poles, even though Antarctica was over the South Pole, which we know we need land in order to have glaciers. The planet itself was so hot, primarily because the ocean was blocked. It had this huge landmass where it couldn't flow in between like it can now. Towards the end of the Triassic, that's when the Mid-Atlantic Bridge really started pushing, opening up, and creating that Tethys Sea. And we had Gondwana, which was the southern half of Pangaea, and Laurasia, which was the northern part of Pangaea. They started separated from each other. This triggered the Triassic extinction, and we're not going to go into depth with that. I'm pushing that back in. We're going to do the 3 extinctions of the Mesozoic. Probably not Monday coming up, but the next Monday, I think. Like I said, I'm not done with these yet. I'm still working on the dinosaur one. The Triassic went right after the Permian. Like I said, 96% of all marine life was wiped out. It took a very long time for it to truly recover. This is what allowed the reptiles to really take off. Most of the thoracics were wiped out. There's one that made it through. I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself, but like I said, most of these critters were small. The big things were all wiped out. Could have gone into super depth with this one too, but I don't have the time to go into it. Maybe as I move stuff around next year, I can go more into this. But your oceans became more and more and more increasingly salty, which are like big deal. The ocean water's salty anyways. They have to have the salt water. You put a saltwater fish in a freshwater tank and it dies. But no, like extremely salty, like poisonous level salty.
That's sea salt.
Like Dead Sea salty, yes. Like things can't live in it kind of salty.
Oh, this, so the ship was overpopulation in the ocean?
Are you talking about the assignment that goes with it? No. So survivors. In order to survive the Great Dying, your population of whatever could not have been localized. It couldn't have just been in one spot. It needed to be widespread. So things that were in the same species but in different areas, they had a higher chance of survival. If the organism was in a tropical environment, they were wiped out. Temperate just means that it has more of a seasonal, it's not hot and jungle-like all the time. Things that were opportunistic, which means they had different things that they ate. And they had different environments that they could live in. They could adapt. Like, okay, well, I can't eat that plant anymore. I'm going to go eat that plant. They tended to survive. The things that could move. Sessile means that you're stuck, like a plant. Okay? Mobile means you have a way to move around. Okay, so the things that had the ability to move had a higher chance of surviving. And the things that were not your apex organisms, your apex predators, your things that were the best of the best, they all went away. The things that were still evolving and adapting, they had a higher chance of survival. So these characteristics were the ones that were seen in the organisms that can actually survive the hell that this planet went through with the Permian extinction. Right there. Like I said, I try to put the stuff in blue to make it a little easier, because like I said, to read is beefy. You got a lot of pictures though. We can check online, attendance again real quick, and freeze this. Oh, this is mine. There it is. Okay, so you had all these holes in the ecosystem that now were completely and totally opened up for new organisms. Let's see, let me check online. I don't see anybody else new. Okay. You're gonna see the word radiated a lot. That does not mean like it's like gonna glow in the dark. Not radiation. It just means that you have an organism that now has the ability to evolve into different species. Is what that word means. Lots of invertebrates decided to evolve into different species. A lot of fish did this. You had complete and totally new interactions between organisms. You now had predators that had all different kinds of food sources that they weren't used to. And in the ocean, this is where we started getting these huge reptile predators, things like plesiosaurs, megalodon, which I haven't even put megalodon into the notes yet. I probably will do that. I need to figure out when megalodon existed. I don't know which time period it was in. No, megalodon, like you could stand inside. I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of like the like you could stand inside it and still like they're huge. Well, not that they exist anymore. Do what? Well, we know more about space than we do the ocean, honestly. So I feel like it's impossible to know. Well, I mean, at least the part that we can see. I feel like it's still in. Well, I mean, we can only see so far. And when we were doing space, when they do put up James Webb, finally, when it does get up there and it takes its 6-month journey to go to that nice little quiet space out on Mars, it'll see much further back in time because it's an infrared based system, and infrared can see through all the cosmic dust. So, but yeah, it is sort of sad that we actually do know more about space, at least our little corner of space, than we do on the ocean. All right, got lots of pictures. What went extinct? This is the end of the trilobites. I did mention this before when we were doing the Permian extinction. They made it through the Ordovician and the Devonian Silurian one, but this killed them off. The coral, the rugose and the tabulate corals, the original coral reefs, this killed them. A new type of coral took over, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Blastoids, these things that look like little seeds. This is a type of echinoderm. They're gone. The foraminifera, these things are gone. They also look like little seeds. These 4 were completely and totally wiped out by the Permian extinction. There are no more. They did not have one single surviving organism. What was extremely heavily affected but still made its way through were brachiopods and crinoids. So, and these are both fossils. This is what we would think of as like a sea flower. It's amazing that these two, well, the brachiopod, it was, most of those were stalked. The stalked versions of brachiopods, they also all went extinct. But the ones that actually were able to move made it through. Otherwise, we wouldn't have oysters. And I am honestly amazed that crinoids did make it through because they couldn't move. In the very early of the Triassic, what did make it through and started repopulating the sea were bivalves, things like clams and scallops. One species of ammonoid made it through. One. There were a few brachiopods that made it through, but that was pretty much it. And from these few organisms, they repopulated and then they evolved into different species and let the ocean start to repair itself. Some stromatolites came back as long as there were not land organisms to eat off of them. So not many. In the middle Triassic, which these all have names, but I didn't go that far into it, the gastropods evolved. They radiated, they were created, they were a new species. The new coral, I'm not even gonna try to, let's see, Scleractinian. I'm leaning on my Latin here. Scleractinian is how you're gonna pronounce that. This is the current type of coral that we have now. So the tabulate and the rugose, they're gone. These are still around now. The salinity started to come back down, so that the sea wasn't toxic like it was before. And in the late Triassic, now we start getting mollusks, things like snails. Well, of course, that's land, not ocean, but things like the conch. You ever been to Hawaii? They blow through that big shell and put their hand in it and make all the noise. That kind of stuff. Bony fish. And then, like I said, this is where you start getting the large marine reptiles, which eventually became the plesiosaur and ichthyosaur. They just look like they're dead. Not like what you think of. Those are later on in the Mesozoic. Brachiopods, when they went away, the bivalves and the gastropods filled that niche. They took over. They basically made the brachiopods go extinct. This is the one species, obviously this is a drawing, this is not a real picture, of the organism. One species of ammonoid, Ophiceras. Yes, Ophiceras. One species made it through. And then after it had the chance to be able to evolve into other species, we've had over 100 of them. From one single type of organism that made it through. This is essentially the ancestor to the squid and the octopus. I know it looks like a snail shell, but they had tentacles like it. Very different organisms. We don't have any of them anymore. They've obviously gone extinct now, but we have their descendants. Belemnites feel like an awful lot like a squid to you. I have. Is it still over there? I have one in there. Underneath the fleshy part had like a skeletal structure. Where's that? Here we go. Okay, so that's what this is. Okay, yeah, they were, like I said, the little things made it through. Okay, so this isn't an outer shell. Okay, it's actually the internal part, and the fleshy part was on top of it. But that's what this is. It's this little. They can't see what I'm holding. It's what? Not even the length of my pinky.
So those didn't come from, squid didn't come from that.
Yeah, they're great million times over granddaddy and grandmommy. There are certain animals that really have not changed that much from their ancestors. Obviously, most squid are a lot bigger than that teeny tiny little thing that I was just holding. This is the one I don't know how to pronounce. When I looked it up, it said chinley. That is not the way that Latin is pronounced. I don't know if it's a ch or a k sound. Should be a ch sound with Latin, but I'm assuming it would be t at the end. So I'm not even going to try. This is really similar to a coelacanth. Coelacanths made it through, where they almost have like leg-like structures. But then they have a fin down at the very, very, very end. In fact, the coelacanth is older than the dinosaur. And they're still alive. They are still around. They made it through. That particular type of bony fish did make it through. You had your sharks. Sharks were already around. Like I said, I didn't double check and make sure when Megalodon. I'll do that this weekend. Figure out where he needs to be fit into my notes. Like I said, I'm still working on it. Very, very, very old fish structure. Most fish nowadays are very, very symmetrical. These guys are not. Sharks and rays. Sharks and rays are in the same family. They've been around for a long time now. This dude, There's actually two different species of it that I have on here. This thing's jaw was like a chainsaw. Just like modern sharks, they're constantly replacing their teeth. The difference with sharks is because of the salinity of the ocean, most of them actually were fresh water. They would go up into rivers or lagoon type areas. They weren't deep sea sharks the way that they are now.
This is a new map I can't put on.
Yes. Now I don't have their links or anything. I didn't go that far into this. Like I said, I'm doing types of dinosaurs and facts, and I can't go into everything of every dinosaur. It would take us forever. But I mean, the most commonly found fossil is a shark's tooth because they're constantly shedding them. Besides, most of the rest of the shark is. No, there's one. You could just go to the beach and find them and pick them up. That's not necessarily going to be like a dinosaur's tooth, but they're all over the place. Plankodons. These things, when they were first found, people thought they were turtles. The snapping turtle. I don't know if you've ever seen a snapping turtle. Their structure has been around for forever. They're essentially before dinosaurs. Turtles are way before dinosaurs to begin with anyways. They all had armored plates. You've never seen a snapping turtle that's essentially what this dude is down here. Obviously, it's not a modern one, but their body style has not changed much at all. Once again, it's shallow ocean, not deep ocean for most of these. Besides, they didn't have gills, they had lungs. These guys. A Nothosaurus. There's a couple different ones here, and obviously the human being is not a Nothosaur, but that just sort of puts it in perspective how large they were in relationship to us. These were the great-great-granddaddies of what you think of as the plesiosaur. Like everybody says, that's what the Loch Ness Monster is, even though it's not a Loch Ness Monster. But they had, as you had evolution after evolution, increasingly long necks. Teeth, they all breathe air. Once again, these were not deep ocean organisms. They would have eaten fish and shellfish, the mollusks at the time. And they started switching from feet to more of a paddle type flipper. So this is, once again, these technically are not dinosaurs. That a plesiosaur was not a dinosaur, and a pterodactyl was not a dinosaur. They're older than this. They branched off before the actual Dinosauria evolutionary step. Oh, I didn't animate that right. Oh, I found one. The Plankodons and the Nothosaurs in the Triassic extinction, they didn't make it through, but their evolutionary descendant, the Plesiosaur, did. And this is a later. This is a Jurassic. This is not a Triassic plesiosaur. I don't know which one it is, but that's what you think of as the Loch Ness Monster. They all had paddle-like fins, long necks. We'll talk about some specifically when we go into types of dinosaurs. And the thing that's interesting is with some of the fossils, they find what are called gastroliths. Chickens do this. And birds, they eat stones, and in their crop, it helps grind up whatever they've eaten. These guys had them too. And you're going to notice as we're going through this, a lot of these weird adaptations or things that we discover are very common in today's birds. That's what birds are. They're little dinosaurs. They're just way evolutionarily advanced compared to a dinosaur. All right. Your predators in the sea. You had two major types. You had the plesiosaur branch and you had the ichthyosaur branch. These are three different types of ichthyosaurs. And we've got older, the one on the top, there are no fins. It's more of a foot type structure in the bones inside the feet. And then at the The late Jurassic is when we start getting fins. They look similar to a dolphin. They gave birth to live young. We have found fossils that have babies in them. It was a pregnant mother. I didn't put that up here, but we have found it. So we know for sure ichthyosaurs did not lay eggs. We do not have evidence of that with the plesiosaur. We haven't found any that have had a fossilized fetus, or whatever you want to call it, baby dinosaur. And it would be sort of odd for a plesiosaur to crawl on the land to lay eggs. So they do hypothesize that the plesiosaur gave birth to live young as well. But they still had lungs. They had a blowhole about right here. Right by where the eye is. Well, not up here on the top of the head like a dolphin does, but very, very similar in body shape to a dolphin. Oh man, I have to go back and look at it. Start with an O. There it is. Ophiceros. Oh my gosh, there made too many pictures. All right. One more. Oh, that was the last one. Okay, so I don't have, honestly, enough time to go super in depth with any of these right now. Right now, the species of dinosaur section of my notes is literally 21 slides long. So I will be splitting it. When we get to that particular part, we got through this a lot faster than I expected. When we do get to that part, I will split the Cretaceous off from the other two periods, and I will bring in the things that y'all are interested in. Check my online attendance. What do you do with that? Let's see. Oh, no, let's see. Erica now. Give me a second. Let me stop this.